It was Mr. Voltaire who said that if God did not exist, we should have to invent him. And through the ages, this is what mankind has been doing. Since the dim and distant beginnings of the human race, the gods have come and gone. And each civilization, every society, donates another deity to the ever-expanding pantheon.
I'm sat on my floor, crisscross applesauce, because, well, it's winter and it's very dark and you can't really see me anywhere else without turning on the big light, and we all know that is a sin. Hello, my name is Dakota, for those of you who aren't aware of my existence, and I have a very important announcement today, and it's got nothing to do with me whatsoever, as all the best announcements tend. Sarcasm. This is a book that I read that I think that everybody needs to read, and I don't often come across books like this where I think this is a universal book that everybody will absolutely love, because my taste is quite, dare I say, condensed. There, I admitted it, I have very condensed taste in literature. But this is the kind of book that I know for a fact everybody could gel with, and that is proven by the fact that it just won the 2024 Booker Prizes awards. That's huge, by the way. Booker Prizes are like the Oscars for authors. It's massive, and Samantha Harvey, Orbital, is our winner. I mean, it goes without saying in itself that the Booker Prizes are selected for good reason. This book is selected for universality, a kind of book that everybody can read and find something in and gel with. That is the markings of an Oscar-winning, Booker Prize-winning book. The judges are very intentionally selective, and they're trained for this, and they read hundreds of books, and I can't even imagine what that process must be like. If I read 2 books back to back, I can't pin them together. I can't even fathom that, but I recommend you read all of the long list and all of the short lists if you're that kind of person. If you're not that kind of person, look at the short list and pick your top 3, because these books are in these lists for a reason. And this is the winner, Orbital by Samantha Harvey, and I had the absolute privilege of being invited to the Booker Prizes these last few years and being able to sit there and witness these people who, dare I say, are masters in their craft, some of the best living writers of our time, and eat dinner with them and drink some champagne with them and pick their minds a little bit and dream of a future where I can be so devoted to something that it gets to a point like that. Anyway, I'm not talking about the book now, I'm talking about the awards. This has nothing to do with the awards, not affiliated. I just read this book and know for a fact that it's wonderful. I have my ginger tea because everybody that I know right now in my entire life above the Northern Hemisphere is sick. If you're above the Northern Hemisphere, specifically in England, specifically in London, is everybody around you sick right now as well? I'm not sick. I'm immune because of all the sauerkraut I eat. That's what my mom says. No, everybody's sick, and so I'm very much doing everything I can to avoid getting sick, because if I get sick, the world does tend to end. So this is some lovely ginger tea that's very hot, and I will be sipping on this throughout the video. It's so cold in London right now. It's -1 degree, and it snowed this morning. Tuesday, 19th of November, and it snowed this morning. Is that concerning or is that normal? I'm not from here, so I don't know if that's concerning or normal. But it was really magical, and waking up to that and looking out the window and just seeing it slate down all pretty and fluffy and catch on the part. What's the part called that overhangs the windows? The top part. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, before we jump into talking about this book and my thoughts on it and why I think you need to read it, why I know you need to read it as soon as possible, I want to have some quick words from today's wonderful sponsor. You guessed it, Squarespace. Squarespace is a platform which makes the whole process of creating and maintaining websites seamless and earnestly enjoyable. I say this from personal experience because in an endeavour to offer a space to spotlight underground artists and writers, I built an online literary and arts journal / magic little community via Squarespace. You can submit your poetry, fiction, art or essays based on the monthly prompt and I just might publish your work. Squarespace is brilliant for turning passion projects such as this into professional projects and morphing dreams and concepts into tangible realities. needs. This is made easier via features like Design Intelligence, which builds on 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise to craft a bespoke digital identity to use across one's entire online presence. There's so many more incredible features like Squarespace Payments, which is the easiest way to manage your payments in one place, as there is the option to sell content and earn revenue. Coming from a considerably technologically inept girl who built her own entire site from scratch, it is honestly so fun to design and tailor to your needs. You can head to squarespace.com/Dakota Warren to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain using code Dakota Warren. Let's talk about the book. It's time to talk about the book. I'm going to start with reading the blurb to this book because I don't want to do it injustice by trying to condense it with my own version, and also famously I give spoilers when I try and condense books, and you don't want spoilers because you're going to read this. Orbital by Samantha Harvey. Life on our planet as you've never seen it before. 6 astronauts rotate in their spacecraft above the Earth. They are there to collect meteorological data and conduct scientific experiments, but mostly they observe. Together they watch our silent blue planet, endless shows of spectacular beauty witnessed in a single day. Yet although separated from the world, they cannot escape its constant pull. News reaches them of the death of a mother, and with it comes thoughts of returning home. The fragility of human life fills their conversations, their fears, their dreams. So far from Earth, they have never felt more part of it or protective of it. They begin to ask, what is life without Earth? What is Earth without humanity? I got shivers just reading that because I know how good this book is and I know what is in store for you. I need not read you the reviews because this book just won the Booker Prize of 2024, which means it's going to be plastered in every single bookstore window and every single recommended table. It's going to be a book that you're about to see everywhere if you're not already aware of it. This isn't the kind of book that I would usually go for, and I find myself saying that about books that I absolutely love. The books that I find that I love the most out of all of the books that I read are generally books that I wouldn't usually go for and have had to read because of some kind of commitment or some kind of award or somebody telling me I absolutely must, who I trust and respect their opinions. And this book itself, you know, you don't think this little sharp, concise, punchy book about astronauts and cosmonauts watching Earth in her orbit will make you cry 7 times. But it will. This book itself is what we need right now. The reason I'm saying everybody should read this is because it's exactly what we need right now, and it's about the crux of it. The crux of it is that we all are just in it together. We're all just humans on this big floating blue glowing planet, and the astronauts, as they have these kind of internal monologues from this omniscient perspective, we get to witness them have these thoughts as they watch this Earth rotate by, and they get seconds of seeing each place before it drifts around and around and around. Do you like my gesticulation here? I'm trying to display an orbit, an Earth orbiting. And they're thinking to themselves that there are no borders. I know it sounds kitsch and on the nose and probably gimmicky when I'm saying it, but when she's written it, because she's an absolutely incredible writer, needless to say, there are no borders. She's just seeing these planets and she's describing the way that they kind of you can see where what's it called, Pangea has separated, and you can see the way that she was describing the way that Alaska and Russia basically touch noses, and the way that the Americas all trickle down and into one another, and she described it so beautifully. And I am first and foremost, I love prose. I love some poetic prose, some chunky prose. Give me prose any day. I like a long sentence with lots of commas. That is very much the writing style of this novel. I think it's very mature and very elegant, very graceful, and I've seen some discussions that I was having, some people were saying that it sounds like she's trying to be too overtly intellectual, but I think that just comes across with this sentence structure. I don't think that she's trying to be too intellectual at all. I think that she's just a brilliant writer, and it might offend some people. Because of this writing style, it's very short and it's very intense, and I picked this up and I thought, wonderful, a quick, fast-paced read. It was not, because the writing is so intense and so wonderful, and there's so many words that I want to sit with for a while, singular words in this particular context that I want to sit with for a while, that I had to put this down several times. Whilst it's the kind of book you think you can read in one sitting, and I generally probably would, don't tell the others, I had to keep on sitting with this and letting it digest and swallow it because it does feel like it's kind of in these separate acts. There's one act where it's describing the planet as if it's this living being, because I suppose essentially it is, and as the astronauts watch these different continents and countries, I'm doing my arm gesture again, as they're watching them kind of go past and drift past, they're thinking all these wonderful things about them, and the astronauts have conversations and they have dreams, and we get to look in on all of them, and it talks a lot about their bodies, the effect of being in outer space on their bodies, their muscular atrophy, the way that all the snot goes up their sinuses, and they've got blocked sinuses and they can't taste and they can't breathe and they can't really think because everything's in their head, and all the little routines they have to do and the little tidbits, and the amount of research this must have taken. In the acknowledgements, the author said she was grateful because all the information is publicly available via NASA, which is very interesting. Imagine the amount of research that would have had to go into this tiny book that is just full of space, as someone who's never been to space. I'm really ranting here because I've got so much that I want to cover in such a brief amount of time. How much can one say about one book? There's this one particular point between two astronauts, and these astronauts are all from different spaces, different walks of life, different countries, different beliefs, and there's this one thing here that I'd like to read you, and this made me cry. I've highlighted all of these little dog-eared pages from lines that made me cry or made me think a lot. I suppose I'm more susceptible to crying right now because it's really cold and I'm rugging up and this is my source of entertainment. But also, in saying that, there's just something about being reminded that you are just a speck in this massive cosmic scheme, in all this cosmic drama. We're just a speck, and isn't that beautiful? Anyway, I'm going to read you this, my favourite line perhaps of all of it. Nell wants sometimes to ask Sean how it is he can be an astronaut and believe in God. A creationist God, that is. But she knows what his answer would be. He'd ask how it is she can be an astronaut and not believe in God. They'd draw a blank. She'd point out of the port and starboard windows where the darkness is endless and ferocious, where solar systems and galaxies are violently scattered, where the field of view is so deep and multidimensional that the warp of space-time is something you can almost see. Look, she'd say. What made that but some heedless, hurling, beautiful force? And Sean would point out of the port and starboard windows where the darkness is endless and ferocious, at exactly the same violently scattered solar systems and galaxies, and at the same deep and multidimensional field of view warped with space-time, and he would say, what made that but some heedful, hurling, beautiful force? Is that all the difference there is between their views, then? A bit of heed? Is Sean's universe just the same as hers, but made with care to a design? Hers an occurrence of nature, and his an artwork. The difference seems both trivial and insurmountable. ... It's barely any difference at all, and the profoundest difference in the world. And just this one paragraph that starts on religion and sums up religion, and just a few thoughts as they're watching the world hurtle by, because it does feel so small up there, and it's just, that really got to me. Obviously that really got to me. I thought that was really beautiful and magical, and can you imagine if we thought like that down here? Just the fact that it's so easily solved, and people can have different beliefs because it all comes from the same source, and that's so wonderful and lovely. And for her to be able to write that in such a way like that is just magic to me. It's got dates, it's got estimated dates of when the Earth was born, and different things happened on the Earth. I was born with the people. People came about on September 14th, and so I was born when humanity was born, apparently, via NASA. I'm not sure what you believe. I don't know why I'm gesticulating so much. I'm going to read you one more line, just one more. Our lives here are inexpressibly trivial and momentous at once. It seems he's about to wake up and say, both repetitive and unprecedented, we matter greatly and not at all. To reach some pinnacle of human achievement only to discover that your achievements are next to nothing, and that to understand this is the greatest achievement of any life, which itself is nothing, and also much more than everything. Some metal separates us from the void. Death is so close. Life is everywhere. Everywhere. Isn't that just magic? I mean, I read this book and then I was doom scrolling, as one does after reading a wonderful book, and I saw this TikTok, and it just reminded me very much of the book, and well, I suppose, you know, confirmation bias. I just come out of reading this book and was thinking about it. It's got 75 likes. It's just a random algorithmic push of this person hiking. I don't engage with this content. I have nothing to do with this content. Do I look like I hike? Do I look like I hike? Be honest. No, I don't. But I love the way that it just starts with, I like places that make me realize how tiny I am. And coming off this, can you imagine looking down at Earth through this spaceship? And it made me think of the way that this is almost similar, and a lesson, and to heed the warning that it's the same. As someone who's lived in the middle of nowhere, and as someone who now lives in one of the biggest, busiest cities in the whole entire world, the feeling persists. It's pervasive to be reminded that you are just but a speck, but it's so important, and that's what's important. That's the main thing. And once you realize this, then everything else will fall into place. And I'm not trying to sound like some new age spiritual cosmic hippie guru, because I'm not. I'm just a girl in my bedroom, sat on the floor, crisscross applesauce in London, talking about a book. And I think I'm gonna end it there. Orbital, Samantha Harvey. This is the book that you should be reading next.